Hi, Assalamualaikum. I am Mazam binti Muhammad Noor and I am the first presenter for this assignment 1, and I am pairing with Muhammad Aiman bin Abdul Halim, and this presentation for subject reuse and component based development, ISB41203, and this is prepared for Dr. Azizah Rahmat. So we have chosen the question 2, which is what is client-side programming? Okay, so basically, what did you know about client-side programming? So, client-side programming is a programming that is running from client browser that deals such as user interface, storage, and interacting with the server. This is basically a front end of a customer side because usually the back end, the developer side, right? Okay, so for example, what can a client side do is users can send requests to the server when accessing the browser, user accepting cookies to make the experience better during browsing the website. Okay, so we'll proceed to what languages usually for client-side programming. So we provided about like 4 languages. So my part will be explaining about three languages, which is HTML, jQuery, and JavaScript. So the rest I'll pass to Mama Aiman later. So okay, the first language that we are going to talk about is hypertext markup language, which is known as the long name for HTML lah. Is a standard markup language for developing an application or website. It usually comes along with other technologies such as cascading style sheet (CSS) and scripting language such as JavaScript and TypeScript. Okay, as you can see the example on the slide, that is the example of the language of HTML. Basically, it is not like heavy programming language. It's more like it's a language for you to build your website layout. Okay, for example, if you want to have boxes in your layout, so it has its certain language for you to use to make the box exist. Okay. Next would be jQuery. jQuery is a lightweight and fast JavaScript library. jQuery also referred as write less, do more, it simplifies JavaScript code to accomplish and binds them into method that can be called with a single line of code whenever needed, like Ajax call and DOM manipulation. Okay, because as we know, JavaScript it has a long lines of code. So jQuery is a simplified version lah kiranya, because you don't want your coding would be too messed up with long lines of code, right? Okay, so this is a language that you can how do I say, mahir in this code lah. Okay, so the syntax example is as stated. $this.hide, it hides the current element, and the other one hides all p elements, paragraph element, and the test would be hide all the element with the class test, and hashtag test hides the element with ID test. Okay, we proceed to JavaScript. JavaScript is a scripting or programming language that allows you to implement complex features on a web page, so that a web page does more than just sit there and display static information for you to look at, such as displaying timely content, updates, interactive maps, animated 2D or 3D graphics, scrolling video jukeboxes. Example of JavaScript syntax is the syntax is for button punya programming, which is okay, we can label the button as click me instead of like press me or whatever. We can rename the label. So if we click on the button, it will do something. It will do some action. For example, when you click the button, it will pass you to the next page and everything. Okay. So now I'll pass to Muhammad bin Abdul Halim for to explain about other languages and the comparison of these languages. Thank you so much from me.
So thank you, Mazia, for the explanation. My name is Muhammad Abdul Halim, and I'm gonna continue our presentation. So the next part is CSS. So CSS is the language for describing the presentation of web pages, including colors, layout, and fonts. There are three types of CSS, which are inline CSS, embedded CSS, and external CSS. CSS is basically a case programming language or a line of code, a code that used to determine the design of the web pages and also determine the design of application, for example, to make it more interactive. And CSS can be declared either internally inside the code with everything inside, with the backend inside, or the external file of the CSS itself. Next part is Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is an open source CSS framework directed at responsive mobile-first front-end web development. It contains CSS and JavaScript-based design, template for typography, forms, buttons, navigation, and other interface components. It will save a lot of time for the developers since all CSS and JavaScript is already put together. So basically, Bootstrap is the complex type of CSS and the complex type of web development, because uh, Bootstrap is, I can say, is the structures of the website, which is you just put, if you have one website that want to look like something like you can say a house building, and then all the structure for other pages will be the same. So this room is going to be like this room is going to be like this room is going to be like this, which is, or everything is the same with Bootstrap. Yeah, there's no need to make any changes for the CSS and design part. And the last one is Angular. Angular is a platform and framework for building single-page client application using HTML and TypeScript and developed by Google. Angular is written in TypeScript. It implements core and optional functionality as a set of TypeScript libraries that you import into your apps. You should use Angular when you're developing an enterprise application and mobile development using JavaScript. And the last slide is the TypeScript. TypeScript can be declared as other relevant programming. So TypeScript is a programming language developed and maintained by Microsoft. It is a strict syntactical superset of JavaScript and adds optional static typing to the language. TypeScript is designed for the development of large applications just like JavaScript. So there are four types of TypeScript or script, and for example, there are jQuery, JavaScript, Angular, and TypeScript. So the next is the comparison of the jQuery, JavaScript, Angular, and TypeScript. So jQuery basically uses resources provided by JavaScript, and the language is from JavaScript library, simplified version of JavaScript code, and it's more user-friendly. So basically, jQuery is the simplest version of JavaScript. Okay, because basically JavaScript is the parent of the jQuery. Before there is a jQuery, there's a JavaScript, and JavaScript is an old programming script compared to jQuery, which make it's a very long code to type, a very long script to type. Next is Angular and TypeScript. So basically, Angular is actually based on TypeScript. Currently, people are using the Angular, but not quite popular on mobile application development, and it detailed in documentation. So compared to TypeScript, TypeScript is known as a object-oriented language. It's a static typing and support interfaces, and the codes need to be compiled. I think that's all from me. And Mazia. Thank you, Dr. Iza. And that's all from our presentation.